Welcome students to the 13th week session, which is a continuation of discourse on secularism. This week we will be dealing with the Indian ideology of secularism, Gandhi's perspective of secularism and how it is different from the Western view. Along with it, we are also looking into the Nehruvian view of secularism and its role in Indian political and social structure. To start with, in this module, we discuss the Indian ideology of secularism. Here, in this module, the learner can learn the meaning of secularism, secularism in the history of India, importance of secularism in India, the crisis of Indian secularism. To start with, we can see what is secularism. The English word secular comes from the Latin word seculum, which means age or spirit of the age. It has the same meaning as the Greek aeon, which is used in the New Testament for an age or era. According to Peter Berger, secularization is the process by which sectors of society and culture are removed from the domination of religious institutions and symbols. George Jacob Holyoake first used the term secularism in England in 1851. And secularization was a key component of the progressivist ideology. Its origin are in West countries where the church has been separated from the state, granting the state a neutral position between different faiths. The scientific definition of secular state is one that recognizes every citizen as equal and does not recognize any social or religious stratification. People frequently mistake secularism for anti-religion because the term secular is used against religion. However, rather than opposing religion, secularism takes a dispassionate approach to running the affairs of the state. In India, for example, secularism essentially means granting equality and non-discrimination to all religions. According to Partha Chatterjee, an Indian political scientist, a secular state is characterized by three principles. The first is the principle of liberty, which necessitates that the state permits the practice of any religion within the boundaries set by some other fundamental rights which the state is also required to preserve. The second is the principle of equality, which mandates that the state not prioritize one religion over another. The third principle is neutrality, which is the best defined as the demand that the state does not favor the religious over the non-religious. Secularism in the history of India. In India, secular traditions are deeply ingrained in its history. With the 42nd Amendment to Indian Constitution enacted in 1976, the preamble of Indian Constitution proclaims that India is a secular republic. The secularism of India does not separate religion from the state as it does it in Western societies. The Indian Constitution allows the state to intervene extensively in religious matters. It is also important to remember that secularism is not a foreign concept acquired from the West. It arose from the intermingling of various groups and communities in its past history as a result of changes in social, economic and political lives. In India, secularism is particularly significant due to religious pluralism. It is stated that in order to remain cohesive, India being the embodiment of multicultural, multilingual, multireligious and multiracial juxtaposition must turn to pluralism. The ancient Indian emperor Asoka accepted and patronized many religions about 2000 years ago. It was a free country in ancient India and citizens were granted citizenship regardless of their religion, whether Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism or anything else. The temples in the Ellora caves built next to each other demonstrate the coexistence of religions and a spirit of acceptance of different faiths in the ancient period. Between the 5th and the 10th centuries, 35 caves were carved into the vertical face of the Charanandri hills. It is evident from the 12 Buddhist caves, 17 Hindu caves and 5 Jain caves constructed in close proximity that secular sentiments for diversity prevailed during the pre-Islamic period in India. As early as the 3rd century BC, Emperor Asoka announced that the state would not prosecute any religious sect. The religious policies of Emperor Asoka resemble modern humanist principles to the greatest extent. In Asoka's definition of social ethics, respect for religious teachers and harmonious relationships between parents and children, teachers and students, and employers and employees are central elements. As part of his 12th Rock Edict, Asoka called for tolerance of all religious sects as well as a spirit of respect. He asked that others refrain from criticizing other religious sects. Akbar is generally considered one of the most successful emperors of the Mughal Empire. His view was inclusion, religious tolerance, and interfaith harmony, and he strived for an empire based on unity and equality. Because of this, Jawaharlal Nehru called Akbar the father of Indian nationalism. He prohibited the forcible conversion of war prisoners, removed pilgrimage taxes, and repealed the Asoka on Hindus. Hindus and Muslims gained equal citizenship status under Akbar, who had previously treated only Muslims as citizens. His policy prohibited religiously based political distinction. In 1603, he also issued a royal order permitting Christians to convert others. The Sufi and Bhakti movements in medieval India united people from many communities. The prominent character of these movements were Khaja Moinuddin Chishti, Baba Farid, Kabir, Guru Nanak, Dadu, Tukaram, and Mirabai, and they contributed significantly to the formation of a composite culture in ways that were not otherwise conceivable through a political structure. Guru Nanak stated there is no Hindu and no Muslims, since he perceived no distinction between man and man. The constitution drafted by the Nehru Committee in 1928 followed the provision of secularism in the constitution they drafted. There shall be no state religion for the Commonwealth of India or for any province in the Commonwealth, nor shall the state either directly or indirectly endow any religion, any preference, or impose any disability on account of religious beliefs and religious status. During the Indian freedom movement, secularism was strengthened and enriched in India. Individuals such as Sir Feroz Shah Mehta, Govind Ranade, Gopalakrishna Gokhale, etc. widely pursued a secular approach to politics during the early years of Indian freedom movement. The Arya Samaj, led by Swami Dayanand Saraswati, and the Brahma Samaj, founded by Rajaram Mohan Rai, never treated other religious faiths with antipathy. In contrast, they sought to purify the Hindu religion of the incorrect traditions that had sapped its vitality over time. Rajaram Mohan Rai was among those who prepared the Hindu college's modern arts and sciences curriculum. In spite of his friendliness towards all religions, Roy evaluated religions in the light of universal humanism. Rabindranath Tagore is the person who brought Western humanism and secular thought into Indian literature. He popularized the term human religion, that is, Manava Dharma, which refers to the religion of man. Tagore thought that true religion had to be humanistic. Therefore, rather than blindly following religious injunctions, humans must intellectually evaluate them first. During modern period, secularism has been characterized by two variants. the Gandhian point of view and the Nehruvian point of view. The separation of state and religion was not considered necessary by Gandhi. In his view, Hinduism and other religions, being tolerant and secular, could not make the state unsecular. Gandhi believed that the state should be secular in the sense that everyone living in it should have the freedom to practice their religion so long as they obey the law. This we will be discussing in detail in the next module exclusively on Gandhian view on secularism. As an agnostic, Nehru believed that the state had no relationship with religion. Regardless of the inherent characteristics of various religions, the development of economics and science provided a sufficient foundation for secular tolerance. One of the Nehru's greatest achievements may be the establishment of India as a secular state. Nehru also described Mahatma as essentially a man of religion, a Hindu, to be the innermost depth of his being. Nehru's religious perspective and secularism will be dealt with in the coming sessions elaborately. In the current scenario, secularism is a philosophy based on the separation of religion and state in the context of India. India's secularism is defined as the tolerance of different religions. A secular state does not allow special privileges to be enjoyed in national life or international relations. Groups of citizens may not arrogate to themselves rights and privileges that are denied to others. In everyday life, no one should suffer from any disability or discrimination because of his religion, but everyone should be free to enjoy the fullest degree of freedom. Importance of secularism in India. In India, secularism is essential because it allows people of different faiths to live in civility while respecting each other's faith. Taking into consideration all the networks in India that follow a few religions, secularism is a positive, progressive and comprehensive idea. This is not unfavorable for the earth or not against God. Throughout Indian secularism, religious conviction is viewed as an important element of human life. As India is a democratic country, it allows all citizens to have equal rights, limits the power of the majority and protects the rights of the minorities. In this way, secularism regulates the relationship between the state and various religious groups, as it is based on the principle of equality and religion is not to be discriminated against in the state, as well as helping reform various evils and superstitions. Indian secularism permits government intervention. All citizens have the right to freedom by exercising the religion of their choice in India, as all religions are granted equal religious freedom under its secularism. Therefore, a secular India adheres to the constitutional freedom of religion for everyone and does not give any special position to any religion. Now we can see secularism in the constitutional context. As regards religious freedom, the preamble of the Constitution speaks of the solemn resolution of the people of India inter alia to secure themselves liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship. Several articles in the Indian Constitution guarantee everyone's right to freedom of religion. To mention a few, we can see one by one. Article 14 believes that every individual is equal before the law. This ensures equal legal protection for all and equal subjugation of all before the law. Article 15 safeguards Indian citizens against discrimination on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. Article 16 guarantees that a person's religious choice is not used against him while seeking employment. Article 25 guarantees people the freedom of conscience where they can profess, practice and propagate the religion of their choice. It looks at forceful religious conversion as a punishable offense. Article 26 aims at protecting collective freedom of religion and guarantees the rights of religious denominations. Article 27 ensures that no taxes are compelled on people for the promotion or maintenance of the religion of their choice. Finally, Article 44, which deals with uniform civil code, ensures equality for all by securing all citizens with the same set of secular civil laws irrespective of their religion, caste or tribe. The law treats all religions equally, and as India adheres firmly to secularism, no one religion is seen as the state religion. Muhammad Tahir stated in his work on religion and the secular state, Indian perspective, how the constitution deals with secularism. The constitution does not contain any clause requiring the state to be neutral in matters of religion, nor does it ask the state to work with religious communities on matters related to their religious practices. The only prohibition is against discriminating against individuals based on their religion. The Constitution's silence on this matter is interpreted as tacit approval for state involvement in the religious affairs of all communities. Consequently, the organs of the state, that is, the legislature, executive, and judiciary, in ways that could be impossible under a strictly secular political structure, have been actively participating in such affairs. Tahir further stated that India is a unique state, believing in secularism and yet preserving its spirituality through constitutional provisions, legislations, state policy, and judicial pronouncements. As a pluralistic society, promoting religious freedom is a better approach to nurturing secularism than strictly advocating state neutrality. As a society, it is vitally important to ensure that the value education assists the younger generation in understanding and appreciating both its own religious traditions and those of other religions. Secularism provides a framework of identifying shared values among diverse groups that make it possible to live together. Ultimately, secularism is about accommodating diverse social groups and overcoming tendencies that damage any society's social fabric. Secularism plays a vital role in India, where there are differences between religions and cultures. As India has embraced numerous religions, sects and groups over time, it has shown tolerance and a sense of tolerance that has resulted in social cohesion and a diverse nation. A plural society like India can only survive by embracing secularism instead of destructive communalism. Now we can see the crisis of Indian secularism. Secularism in India arose from modernity and the concept of modern nation states intending to ensure India's unity and prosperity. Many Indian history and political scholars such as Ashish Nandi and Madan argue that secularism is unsuitable for India. T.N. Madan in 1997, while discussing the crisis of Indian secularism, argues that modernity also replaces religion with modern scientific principles. This will create an irreconcilable conflict between scientific secularism and religion. As a result of religion's marginalization in India, it often serves as a source of resistance to this alien worldview and curtails bigotry and violence. Hence, it is irrational to demand that religion be removed from public life within a secular framework based on the mainstream Enlightenment view of religion. Secularism would also be important as a blueprint for the foreseeable future because it is incapable of countering religious fundamentalism and fanaticism. Amartya Sen disagrees on this with Madan. Sen argued that the Indian state must remain secular politically but not wholly ignore religions and religious communities. After independence and partition, the Indian National Congress ruled for decades. There was also a wide range of opinions and interests represented in the party. It was not the case that all Congress members were committed to secular principles. Late in 1960s, Congress political power began to slip and India's secular principles were eroded. Following a significant defeat at the polls in 1967, the post-Nehru party split into two over issues of both personality and substance. Regardless of the fact that secularism under Nehru had been a cornerstone of the Indian constitutional order, Indira Gandhi's electoral surge opportunistically knocked it aside as well. Shah Banu judgment in 1985 was a landmark in India's constitutional history. In April 1978, Shah Banu filed a petition seeking maintenance from her divorced husband in a court in Indore. Under Section 123 of Code of Criminal Procedure 1973, Shah Banu alleged that her husband, ex-husband, should provide financial assistance for his wife during marriage and after divorce if she is unable to sustain herself financially. In her case, she sought an overturn of her ex-husband's claim that he was exempted from paying her alimony under Muslim personal law. The Supreme Court confirmed the High Court's decision to award Shah Banu maintenance in April 1985. Indian Muslims were enraged by court's decision in the Shah Banu judgment. The Muslim community leaders expressed fear that their personal law was now at risk. However, amid protests from Muslim clergy led by the All India Muslim Personal Law Board and Hindu right wings clamoring for uniform civil codes, the Rajiv Gandhi government passed the Muslim Women Protection of Divorce Act 1986, effectively overturning the Supreme Court decision. It enraged the Indian middle class and fueled the Hindu right wing's subsequent campaign to pillory and destroy Nehruvian secularism. In its polymorphous interpretation of secularism, India continued to offer liberal subsidies for religious pilgrimages after 1950, such as the Hajj subsidy program for the Muslim pilgrimage to Mecca. It was criticized as discriminatory against other religions that do not receive similar subsidies for their own holy places and benefit wealthy Muslims. Nevertheless, as long as some key institutions of Indian democracy remained intact, they may be able, in conjunction with other social forces, to prevent Indian secularism by dying out. Secularism in the Indian context is different from that of Western countries because the religious plurality of the country turns antagonistic at times. The partition of India over religious and cultural differences that resulted made secular nationalists uncomfortable with the idea of connecting the state with religion. In Madan's word, the crisis is the future of India as a civic society and the character of its polity in the years to come are as yet far from settled issues. All those who cherish the values of democracy and cultural pluralism, of human freedom and dignity can hardly afford to be complacent. To sum up, in the current session, we saw the meaning of secularism and how it differs from the Western view and how Indian secularism is dealt with differently by Gandhi and Nehru. Then we saw its relevance from the historical view, how our constitution promotes secularism and its significance in the Indian context. Finally, we saw the crisis involved in having this unique characterized secularism in India, particularly from the point of view of Madan. Thank you.